Hey everybody, we are on day 2 of listening to God, and we're also going to be looking at John chapter 9, verses 13 through 41. So, in today's devotion plan, we see that it talks about hearing rather than listening. And so often, this is what we do in our relationship with God and in our approach to hear God. We hear, but we don't listen. And obviously, there are two complete different between hearing and listening. Hearing is just yeah, you hear, but actually listening, usually requires action. And so, one of the best examples I can give, because I've been trying to think of an example for this all day long, is my parents. So often, when I was growing up, my parents would tell me something, and when I was in high school and even before then, yeah, I'd hear you. Yeah, mom, I hear you. Yeah, dad, I hear you. Don't do this. I get it. But now that I've grown up a little more and I've matured, um, I listen. I understand because I've been there. I've done that. I've made the mistake, and so I know what they're saying now. And so for me now, it's not just this verbal background noise anymore. It's valuable words, and I've learned to listen to that, to actually take heed, as the Bible would say, to take heed to what my parents are saying, because they know what they're talking about, and and like I said, if we want to hear from God, so often we've got to learn to listen. It's definitely a discipline. You're just not going to learn it overnight. You've got to force yourself because you've got to force yourself to sit down and to be quiet and to remove all distractions. Between you and God, and so that you can sit there in complete silence, so you can truly listen, and so you can hear from God. But then, like I said, hearing is just, yeah, God, I hear you. But to actually listen means to take action. So when God speaks to you, truly listening to God means that you're going to go out and do whatever He says for you to do. And so then that leads me into John chapter 9. And I love this because we're continuing talking about the man that was born blind. So starting in verse 13, he's already healed of his blindness. Jesus has already cured him. He's already cured him of his blindness. And so the Pharisees track this guy down, and they basically ask him, "Hey, aren't you the guy that was born blind?" He's like, "Yeah." And then they keep on asking him, "Well, who healed you? Who did this?" And he tells them, "Well, it was that guy Jesus." And the Pharisees pretty much flat out accuse Jesus of, being a sinner because he said, he tells the Pharisees tell the blind guy or the former blind guy that, I want to trust this guy. I want to trust this Jesus because he healed on the Sabbath, so he can't be from God. He must be a sinner. And I love what he tells them. He pretty much drops the hammer on the Pharisees in verse 25. So the former blind guy says in verse 25, "Whether he is a sinner, I do not know. One thing I do know, that though I was blind, now I see." This guy completely destroys them. He shuts them up because, the Pharisees are going around saying, well, you shouldn't trust this guy. This guy isn't legit because if he was truly from God, if he was legit, then he wouldn't be going around doing this on the Sabbath. And this guy comes up to him and he says, guys, I don't know if this guy's a sinner. I really don't know. But let me tell you one thing. I was born blind, but now I can see. How do you explain that? You know, he pretty much shuts them up and destroys their case. And so often, I think sometimes we're like the Pharisees. We look for excuses for different things. We kind of just try to make up excuses like, oh, well, I can't do that because it's this or whatever. But Jesus is still Jesus. God is still God. And so I encourage you, don't make excuses for following God because that's exactly what they're doing. Because then, in a couple verses later down, the blind guy or the former blind guy looks at him and he says, "Why do you keep asking me? Are you wanting to become his followers too?" And so stop making excuses for being obedient to Jesus because this is often what we do. Oftentimes we try to make up excuses and try to work our way out of not being obedient. We say, "Oh, I'm too busy. Or I don't have enough time," or I can't commit to that right now, or I can't do that. I don't have enough money, or whatever the case may be. All I can say is stop making up excuses. 'Cause that's all it is an excuse. Let God be God in your life and let Him have control in your life. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.